Northern Montana has a strange silence. Not the peaceful kind people imagine when they think about forests and mountains. This silence feels heavier. The kind that settles into the trees. The kind that makes you lower your voice without knowing why. About 40 miles outside a small town called Black Ridge, there's an old cellular tower standing alone in the middle of dense pine forest. No houses nearby. No farms, no hiking trails, just a narrow service road leading to the tower, and miles of dark woods. Locals know the place, but they don't go there, because for years people who worked maintenance on that tower reported something strange, something that had nothing to do with broken antennas or signal interference. They reported rules written inside the maintenance shed. Rules no one admitted writing. And the most important rule was written in thick red marker. Don't touch the bulbs. The man who would eventually climb that tower was named Lucas Hale. Lucas wasn't the kind of guy who chased danger. He grew up in a quiet, working-class neighborhood outside Billings, Montana. His father was a truck mechanic. His mother worked nights at a small hospital. Life in their house was simple. Dinner at 6, football games on Sunday, and long winters where the whole town seemed to move slower. Lucas spent most of his childhood taking things apart. Old radios, broken clocks, garage door motors. Anything with wires fascinated him. His father used to joke that Lucas would either become an engineer or accidentally electrocute himself one day. But Lucas was careful, always patient, always curious. And that curiosity eventually led him into telecommunications work. By 28, Lucas was working for a regional contractor called Montana Comms. His job was simple. Drive out to remote towers, fix signal issues, replace equipment. Climb, check, repair, leave. Most jobs took a few hours. Some took a day. But the call he received in late October would be different. Very different. It was almost 7:40 p.m. when Lucas's phone rang. He had just finished dinner with his girlfriend, Emma, in their small apartment. The caller ID showed his supervisor, Rick Dalton. Lucas almost ignored it. Late calls usually meant one thing: emergency repairs. He answered. "Hey, Rick." There was a pause on the other end. Then Rick said something strange. "Lucas, you're the closest tech we've got right now." Lucas leaned back in his chair. "What's the problem?" Another pause. "The Black Ridge Tower went dark." Lucas frowned. "Lightning strike?" "Maybe," Rick said. "But listen, the monitoring system says the red aviation lights stopped blinking." That was a serious problem. Federal aviation rules required those lights to stay on. If they went dark, planes flying low through storms could hit the tower. "So you need me to reset the system?" Lucas asked. Rick hesitated again. "Yeah, something like that." Something in Rick's voice sounded uneasy. Lucas noticed, but he ignored it. "Send me the location," he said. Rick sighed quietly. "All right. But Lucas..." "Yeah?" "When you get there, check the maintenance shed first." Lucas grabbed his jacket. "Why?" Rick answered in a tone Lucas had never heard before. "Just read the rules on the wall." The line went silent. By 9:05 p.m., Lucas's truck was already deep inside the forest road. Rain hammered the windshield. Wipers struggled to keep up. The GPS signal had dropped miles ago. Only the narrow dirt road guided him forward. And then, through the rain, he saw it. The tower. Tall, dark, and surrounded by trees like skeletal fingers clawing at the sky. Lightning flashed. For a split second, the tower looked wrong, like something sitting on top of it. But the lightning vanished too quickly to see clearly. Lucas slowed the truck. The red aviation lights blinked slowly above. Steady. Calm. Too calm. Lucas grabbed his flashlight and stepped out into the storm. That's when he noticed something strange. The blinking pattern. The lights weren't flashing normally. They were staying red, solid, like someone had changed the system. Lucas looked up again and felt a strange chill crawl up his spine. Because the red lights weren't just glowing. They were watching. The rain was getting heavier. Lucas walked toward the small maintenance shed sitting near the base of the tower. It was an old metal structure, paint peeling, door slightly crooked. The kind of place that looked like it hadn't been renovated in 20 years. He pulled the door open. It creaked loudly. Inside, a single emergency bulb flickered. Lucas stepped in and shut the door behind him. The room smelled like wet metal and old wiring. Shelves were filled with spare cables, signal amplifiers, and rusted toolboxes. Normal maintenance stuff. But then Lucas noticed something on the wall. A piece of paper, taped directly above the work table. Handwritten, black marker, large letters, not printed, not official, just written. Lucas walked closer. The paper had a title. Blackridge Tower, Night Shift Rules. Lucas frowned. He had never seen something like this on any tower site before. He began reading. Rule number 1. If the red lights stop blinking and stay solid, do not attempt to fix them immediately. Rule number 2. Wait 10 minutes before climbing the tower. Rule number 3. If you hear someone calling your name from the forest, ignore it. Lucas blinked. What the hell? He kept reading. Rule number 4. Never touch the bulbs on the upper platform. Rule number 5. If the bulbs start dripping, leave immediately. Lucas froze. Dripping. Bulbs don't drip. Then he reached the final rule, written in thick red marker, like someone had pressed the pen too hard. Rule number 6. If you see something sitting near the red lights. Lucas felt his stomach tighten. He finished reading. It already saw you first. The bulb above him flickered again. Lucas slowly looked up. For a moment, the light went completely dark. And in the brief silence, Lucas thought he heard something outside. A sound, very faint, like metal shifting, high above the tower. Lucas stepped back outside. Rain soaked his jacket instantly. He looked up at the tower again. The red lights were still glowing, steady, unblinking, exactly like the rule described. Lightning flashed across the sky. For a split second, Lucas saw the top platform clearly. Nothing there. Just antennas, metal beams, and the red aviation lights. Lucas exhaled slowly. Okay, he muttered. Someone's messing with the new guys. He had worked enough remote jobs to know technicians sometimes left weird jokes for others. Scare tactics, pranks. Lucas opened the equipment case from his truck. Helmet, harness, climbing gear. If the lights were malfunctioning, the control box on the upper platform probably needed a reset. Simple job. Climb, check, reset, leave. But as Lucas started walking toward the tower ladder, his radio crackled. Static. Then a voice came through. Lucas? Lucas grabbed the radio. Yeah, Rick. Static again.
Then Rick's voice returned, but it sounded different, lower, slower. "Lucas, did you read the rules?" Lucas sighed. "Yeah, I saw them." A long pause filled the radio. Then Rick said something that made Lucas stop walking. "Then why are you still there?" The radio went silent. Lucas looked up again, at the red lights, and for the first time, he noticed something strange. One of the bulbs was slowly starting to drip. Lucas stood still. Rain poured over his shoulders. For a moment, he thought his eyes were playing tricks on him. But the red bulb above the tower platform really was dripping. A thick drop formed under the glass. Then it fell, all the way down through the metal beams of the tower. Lucas stepped back instinctively. What the hell? He wiped rain from his eyes and looked again. The drop hit the ground near his boot. Lucas pointed his flashlight at it. The beam of light revealed something that made his stomach tighten. The liquid wasn't water. It was dark, thick, almost black in the rain. Lucas slowly stepped closer. He crouched down and touched the wet dirt with his finger. Then he smelled it. Metal, rust, and something else, something unmistakable. Blood. Lucas quickly stood up and looked back at the tower. The dripping had stopped, but the red light above still glowed, steady and silent. Lucas tried to laugh it off. His brain searched for logical explanations. Maybe oil, maybe corrosion inside the bulb housing, maybe some kind of electrical residue, anything. Anything but what it looked like. He forced himself to breathe slowly. Then he clipped the harness onto his belt. The tower ladder stood directly in front of him. Cold, wet, tall enough to disappear into darkness. Lucas grabbed the first rung. The metal felt icy through his gloves. He looked up once more. The red lights blinked once, then stopped again. Solid red, exactly like the rule described. Lucas hesitated for just a second. Then he started climbing.
30 feet, 40 feet, 60 feet. Lucas climbed slowly. The forest floor beneath him faded into darkness. Wind pushed against the tower, making the metal structure groan softly. Every movement echoed through the steel. Halfway up the tower, Lucas stopped to catch his breath. He looked down. Bad idea. The ground was barely visible now, just black trees swaying in the storm. Then Lucas heard something, a voice, very faint, somewhere inside the forest. "Lucas?" He froze. The voice sounded distant, almost buried under the sound of rain. But he heard it again. "Lucas." This time it sounded closer. Lucas grabbed his radio. "Rick, that you?" Static, no answer. The voice came again, but now it sounded exactly like his girlfriend, Emma. "Lucas, come down." Lucas's heart began to pound. Emma didn't even know where he was tonight, so how could she be calling his name? From the forest. Lucas slowly looked down again. The trees were moving in the wind, but for a split second, he thought he saw something standing between them. Something tall, watching. Lucas held the ladder tightly. Rain hit his helmet. Wind pushed against the tower. But the voice from the forest didn't stop. "Lucas." This time it sounded closer. Much closer. Lucas swallowed slowly.
"Emma?" he called out. No answer. Just rain. Just wind. Then the voice came again. Soft, almost whispering. "Lucas, come down. Please." His chest tightened. Emma's voice sounded perfect. Every tone, every pause, exactly like her. But something felt wrong. The voice had no emotion, no panic, no fear. It sounded empty, like something pretending to be human. Lucas looked down again. The forest was dark, but lightning flashed across the sky. For 1 second, the trees lit up, and Lucas saw it. Something standing between the pines, too tall, too thin, and completely still, watching him. Lucas quickly looked away from the forest. His breathing was getting faster. His brain tried to stay logical. Maybe it was a tree, maybe shadows, maybe stress. But then, the tower above him moved. Not the wind, not the metal, something else. Lucas slowly lifted his head. The upper platform was only 20 feet above him now. The red lights glowed through the rain, and something shifted near them. Lucas froze. At first it looked like part of the tower structure, a bent antenna maybe. But then it moved again. Long limbs unfolded slowly, like a spider stretching after sleep. Lucas felt his heart slam against his chest. The thing on the platform crouched near the lights. Its eyes reflected the red glow. 2 small points in the darkness. Then it tilted its head and looked directly down at him. Lucas remembered the rule, the one written in red marker. If you see something sitting near the red lights, it already saw you first. Lucas stopped breathing, because the creature wasn't hiding. It wasn't running. It wasn't afraid. It was just watching him. Calm, patient, like it had been waiting. Waiting for someone to climb. Waiting for someone to reach the bulbs. A drop fell from the red light above. Another thick liquid drop. It landed on Lucas's shoulder. Warm. Slow. Lucas didn't need to check this time. He already knew what it was. The creature slowly leaned forward. And then Lucas heard something impossible. It spoke. Not with words, but with a sound. A broken imitation of human speech. Lucas. Lucas's blood turned cold, because the voice sounded exactly like his own. Lucas couldn't move. His hands were locked around the ladder. Rain kept falling. Wind kept shaking the tower. But the creature above him was perfectly still. For a few seconds. Then it moved. Slowly. Very slowly. One long arm stretched down along the metal railing. Its fingers were too long, too thin. They wrapped around the tower beams like claws. Lucas's heart pounded in his ears. He tried not to breathe too loudly, tried not to make any sound. Maybe, if he stayed still, maybe the thing wouldn't come closer. But the creature tilted its head again, and then another arm reached down. Closer, closer to the ladder. Lucas realized something terrible. It wasn't just watching him anymore. It was climbing down. Lucas forced himself to move, slowly, carefully. He reached for the radio clipped to his vest. His fingers were shaking. He pressed the button. "Rick, are you there?" Static filled the speaker. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the radio crackled again. But it wasn't Rick. It was Lucas's own voice. Perfect. Clear. "Lucas, why did you climb?" Lucas's stomach dropped. He stared at the radio. His fingers slipped off the button. "I didn't say that," he whispered. But the radio continued, his own voice again. Calm. Cold. "You broke the rule." The creature above him stopped moving, as if it heard the radio too. Then its head slowly turned toward Lucas again, and the red lights above them began to flicker. One by one. The red lights flickered again. Once. Twice. Then they stopped blinking completely. Now every bulb on the tower glowed solid red. The entire structure looked like it was bleeding light into the storm. Lucas felt the metal ladder vibrate. The creature above him moved again. But this time, it didn't climb slowly. It dropped. 10 feet down the tower in one terrifying motion. Lucas gasped. The thing was now only a few meters above him, close enough for Lucas to see its face. Or what should have been a face. There were no eyes, just 2 deep shadows where eyes should be, and a mouth that opened too wide for anything human. Then it whispered again. Soft. Broken. Kaz. Lucas realized something in that moment. The rules in the shed. They weren't warnings. They were survival instructions. And he had already broken the most important one.
Lucas didn't think anymore. His body reacted before his mind could. He started climbing down, fast, one rung at a time. The metal ladder shook under his weight. Rain made everything slippery. Above him, the creature moved again. Another sudden drop. Closer. Lucas could hear it now. Not breathing. Not growling. Just a wet, scraping sound. Like something dragging along the metal frame of the tower. Lucas looked up for 1 second. Big mistake. The creature was only a few feet away now, its long arms stretched toward him, fingers twitching, reaching. Lucas slipped. His boot slid off a rung. For one terrifying second, his entire body dropped. But the harness rope caught him. The sudden jerk made the tower vibrate. The creature froze. Then its head slowly tilted. Almost curious. And then Lucas heard something else from below. Footsteps. In the forest. More than one. Lucas forced himself to look down. The forest floor was far below, but something was moving between the trees. Not just one shape. Many. Tall shadows shifting slowly in the rain. Lucas's chest tightened. They were gathering, right below the tower. Watching. Waiting. Lightning flashed again. For a brief moment, the entire forest lit up. Lucas saw them clearly. Thin figures, too tall to be human, standing perfectly still. Dozens of them, their heads tilted upward, all staring at him. Or maybe at the creature above him. Lucas realized something horrifying. The tower wasn't just a signal structure. It was something else, something older, something that called them here. The red lights above blinked again, slow, heavy, like a heartbeat. Lucas remembered the rules again. If the red lights stop blinking, wait 10 minutes. He didn't wait. He climbed immediately. And now he understood why that rule existed. The lights weren't warning airplanes. They were signals, beacons.
Something inside the forest was watching those lights, waiting for them to change, waiting for someone to climb. Lucas looked up again. The creature above him had stopped moving. It was staring at the bulbs, not at Lucas. The red lights flickered again. Once. Twice. Then something terrible happened. The glass of one bulb cracked. A dark liquid began filling the inside, slowly spreading across the glass. Then the bulb burst. The liquid poured out like rain, and every shadow in the forest moved at the same time. Lucas heard the first sound from below. Metal. A sharp clang. Then another. Lucas looked down the tower ladder. At first, he couldn't understand what he was seeing. Then lightning flashed across the forest, and the truth became clear. The shadows from the trees had reached the tower. Tall figures surrounded the base, thin arms stretched toward the metal frame. And one by one, they began climbing. Not like humans, not carefully. They moved fast, too fast. Their long limbs wrapped around the tower beams, climbing straight toward him. Lucas's breath became shallow. Above him, the creature on the platform started moving again. Below him, dozens more were coming. Lucas was trapped in the middle. The tower shook violently as the creatures climbed. Metal groaned under their weight. Lucas grabbed his radio one last time. "Rick, if you can hear me." Static filled the speaker. Then Rick's voice returned, but it sounded distant, broken. "Lucas, listen carefully." A long pause followed. Then Rick said the final words. "Whatever happens, don't let them reach the lights." Lucas looked up at the red lights. They were still glowing, slow, heavy, like a heartbeat in the storm. The creature above him crouched near the bulbs, waiting, watching. Lucas suddenly understood something. The lights were never meant for airplanes. They were cages, barriers, signals that kept the creatures away from the forest. And now the bulbs were breaking, one by one. Lucas made a decision. He climbed up, fast, ignoring the creature above him, ignoring the things climbing from below. The wind screamed around the tower. Rain blurred his vision, but Lucas kept climbing. 10 feet, 5 feet. Then he reached the top platform. The creature lunged toward him, but Lucas was faster. He grabbed the main power cable connected to the light system and pulled, hard. The cable tore free. For a moment, everything went silent. Then every red light on the tower exploded at once. The entire structure went dark, pitch black. The creatures froze, all of them, on the tower, in the forest. For a few seconds, nothing moved. Then they began to disappear, melting back into the darkness of the trees, one by one, until the forest was silent again. Lucas climbed down the tower slowly. When he reached the ground, the rain had stopped. The forest was empty. No shadows, no creatures, just the tall, black tower behind him. And from that night forward, the Black Ridge Tower lights never worked again. But locals say that sometimes, on very quiet nights, you can still see red lights blinking above the forest, even though the tower has no power.